Hi guys, and welcome to this video. This is Jamie from System22 and GreatWebDesign.com. We're going to continue on with our series of videos creating a one-page scrolling Bootstrap site here. Last video we created this little hero section. What I want to do is add some media queries, because although it displays pretty well, it looks good here, when I view it on some smaller devices, it's not rendering the way I'd like it to. I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to open the inspector here and click on the mobile devices tab over here. I mean, that looks fine. Let's put it on responsive and just reduce it down. It's looking fine at this point. Still, that's fine. Then there, that's not looking so good there. Those buttons are a bit crowded. The text is okay. And here, it's spilling over into the About section, which we don't want. And that's 282. That's pretty small. That's a little smaller than probably an iPhone 5. Yeah, you see on an iPhone 5 here, it's actually, the buttons are way down in the About section. The logo's a little too large. It's still working okay on a 6. I think these buttons, I'm going to change the margin on these just because they're slightly off center there. They're a little over to the left. But anything smaller than a 6 plus, I think we're going to have to do a little bit of editing. Let's have a look here. Where's that break point? Yeah, so it's around about 380. If we look at this number up the top here, anything smaller than 380 is where we want to change it. Okay, well, let's get started. I think the first thing I'm going to do is change the padding on these buttons, which is something that we've got already. So if we open up our bracket software, if you've been following on, you'll know there's a link to this free bracket software down below this video. And any code we write today, we'll also leave a link to a PDF of the code. So we want to go down to our buttons, wherever that is, right here. And I think, see, I've got a margin right there. What I'm going to do is change that to a regular margin. And that'll mean, if I just pull up the site again, at the moment I've got a 15 pixel margin to the right of the button, which is pushing that one to the side. Nothing to the left, nothing to the top and bottom. This is why it's slightly off center there. What I want to do is add some padding constantly around it for both buttons, which it'll center it, and when it goes to a smaller size and they're on top of each other, it'll also give it a bit of space between the buttons. So let's go back to the brackets as we were. I'm going to change this to just margin. And I've got 15, so half of 15 is 7.5. I don't want to do a half, so let's just call it 8 pixels. And not only is this going to give it 8 pixels to the left and the right, it's also going to give it 8 pixels to the top and bottom, because I've only put 1 in there. I mean, I can put individual pixel settings in for each one here, and that would be top, right, bottom, left, and you can have different numbers in each one there. But if you've only got 2, first one's top and bottom, second one's left and right. If you've only got 1, it's top, bottom, left and right. So it's going to have 8 pixels around the button there. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to put it in our hover as well. In fact, I probably don't need it in there, but let's put it in there anyway. And get rid of that extra semicolon, do a quick save. Back to our site. Now these should centralize. They're probably going to have one more pix between them, 2 8s of 16, and they'll drop down slightly by 8 pix. So let's just refresh there. There we go, they're in the middle now. Now when I reduce down and they drop below each other, there should be a bit of a gap between them. There we go, they've got a gap between them now. Okay, well let's fix the other problems. We want them to be the same width. We don't want them to spill over to there. So let's start on that. And we said about 380, wasn't it? So, okay, let's put it on just below 380, like that. Alright. Let's start at the top and work our way down. First thing I want to do is I want to make this a little more interesting. I want to make it our nice red colour. And again, we want to get a notepad, just a blank notepad that we can paste our changed code into. Okay, so let's inspect this. And I'll pull that up so I can see it a bit better. There we go, nav bar toggle. So let's inspect this one first. There's the border color. We want to make it our nice little red color. So I can just paste this in here. And let's copy that. And what if we can change the background here as well? Let's just try saying background. So that's made the background. Let's see what happens when we toggle on it. When we actually toggle on it, it's changing back there. So we want it to be on focus and hover as well, and also visited. Let's paste our little red color in there. Okay, let's copy this over. And those little white bars, or little grey bars I should say, we want to turn white. So let's just make them FFF. There we go, and it's sort of more in line with our styling here. Going to copy that over to our little notepad as well. And let's make this a little smaller. See, when we're on it, I'm going to make this background red. I'm going to pull those over to the left side. But I also want to make that a little bit smaller, because I think when we got down it was just getting too big. Yeah, see, it spills over there. We look on an iPhone 5, it's spilling over there. We want to keep it inside that. I think I'll leave it on the iPhone 5 for a minute. So let's select that image. And it should be navbar brand image. Here we are, right here. What I want to put is a maximum width in there, or I'll just give it a width attribute of, let's try 250 pix. We'll make it a little bit bigger than that, say 270. Yeah, that'll work. That'll work. I like that. So let's copy this across. Don't need that because we didn't change it. Okay, we want to float those over to the left hand side. I think that should be navbar nav probably. Inspect. Right there. copy that, paste it over. And make things a little more interesting. I want to make this background red. I want to make that white. I might make that a little bit larger. So let's just inspect this. And let's make the background that nice red color again. I'm actually going to copy it from my little notepad over there. Drop this down. Yeah, that'll work. Now we need to make those white, so let's just copy this over. It's list item A, that should be, let's have a look here. Actually, don't want the active one, let's do this one. So colour, let's just make that white. Okay, let's make it a little bit bigger. I mean, that's probably okay, and we're viewing it at 100%, but I'd like to see it slightly bigger. So let's do font size. Let's try 20 pixels. It's a bit too big. Let's try 18 pixels. Yeah, that looks fine. I like that. So we'll copy that one there. And you may be saying to yourself, well, this is going to change everything on my full size site. Well, you're right, it is, but we're going to add what they call a media query in a minute, so it tells it just to do it at a certain level, certain screen size. Okay, what do we want to do next? Probably want to reduce the margin here. Let's just close that for a moment. Yeah, well, we're going to reduce that margin at the top, make the H1 a little smaller, make our paragraph text, our P text, a bit smaller, and sort out our buttons. Let's get it back to about that breakpoint we had, which was 380, I think, wasn't it? Yeah, let's have a look. That should be on top. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so let's select our background here, and that should be that Hero T section. There's our Hero T section. You see it's got that padding at the top. If you look, it's sort of light browny, yellowy brown color at the top. 20%, let's reduce that. We want to reduce that by quite a bit, I should think. Let's say 10%. That's probably still going to be too much. Let's still take a bit more than that off. Let's say 5%. Yeah, that'll work. I'll just take this down a bit. Yeah, that's going to work. So we'll say 5%. Just copy this across again. Okay, let's make this H1 a little smaller, so it actually, let's make it so it fits in. There it is, H1, let's make it, try 35 pixels. It's better, but I don't want a line break there, so let's try 30 pixels. I think that'll work. I don't want to make it smaller than that because it won't look like a heading. So we copy this. I'm just going to copy the top bit there, not the other bit, because we don't need it. And of course, when you do that, you've got to make sure you remember to add the curly bracket underneath. Make sure you add that curly bracket because it will not work. Okay, so we're happy with that. The paragraph text, we want to take that down a bit too, but we don't want to take it too much because it's got to be readable, obviously. 25. What did we use here? I think we used 18 on these, didn't we? Let's try 18. That will probably work. I think that's readable. Just check it on the iPhone 5, see what it looks like there, because that was a bit of a problem. Yep. Well, we can take the font size down on these buttons, change a bit of this padding so those come up a little bit more. I mean, that's okay, but it's still spilling over that little section there. Okay, let's take the font size down on these buttons and see what happens. So 25 at the moment, might take them down. 18 is going to be a little too small. Let's try 20. We just remove a little bit of padding from there probably. While we're in the buttons, let's make them the same width. So we'll give them minimum width, min width. Let's try 250. That's a little bit too big. Okay, so 250 is a little bit much. Let's take it down to 200. There we go, that looks a little more like it. We want to reduce the padding that's at the bottom of here. Let's just copy this for a moment. Again, I'm not going to copy all of it, just the bits we've changed. Don't need the color, we haven't changed that. Make sure to put a curly bracket, close, curly bracket on end. And let's just reduce the padding on that by a few pixels. So let's call it 15 pixels. Okay, let's call it 12 pixels. There we go. That all fits in there now. So here, I'm just going to copy that because we've already got our Hero TP. I can just add that to it. Oh, perhaps I didn't copy it last time. Well, let's copy this. And put it after the H1 there. Don't need that color. And I also I'm going to reduce it on the H1 by 12 pixels as well. That way it'll just give it a little more there as well. So if I just select that H1 text again. What did we say? 12 pixels, wasn't it? There we go. Now that should fit nicely into that little container on an iPhone 5. You're seeing all of your hero section there, and they can act on it as they need to. I just go back to responsive. That's fine. Yeah, that's fine on those two. So that's probably all we need to do here. Now comes the clever bit. We're actually going to give it what they call a media query. And what a media query does, it tells the CSS only do this when we get to a certain screen width. There's the width there. And our width is 380, I believe. That's when the buttons collapse on top of each other. If I just refresh, of course we've got all our CSS in there at the moment. 380, I believe, is the number we wanted. If you look at this number up the top here, we'll collapse it. .386, 360, there we are, that's where those buttons drop there. So what we're going to do, so I'll drop down a little space here, we're going to wrap this whole CSS group in a media query. So we're going to say @media with no space in between there. You can put and screen size if you want to, but it seems to work fine without putting that in. So I'm going to say max width. So that's any device that has a maximum width. And the max width that we were looking for was 380 pixels. And wrap that up with another round bracket there. Now after it we need to put an opening curly bracket. And after the last entry here, after its closing curly bracket, we want to put another closing curly bracket to close out the actual media query. So at the end of all media queries, you want to make sure you're looking at 2 closing curly brackets, one for the last bit of CSS and one to close out the actual media query itself. So if we now select all of this, Control A, and we'll copy it into our CSS style sheet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start a new heading. I'm going to call it media queries. Then any more media queries that we have to make, we'll put them under this section here. /**. Probably know this by now. And let's just paste it down below, Control V. That's good. Get this back, copy it, Control C. Just make sure we got it all, Control A, select it all, Control C to copy it. And paste it in there. There we go. So here's those media queries we've just written. And don't forget, we did change the padding on that, or the margin on that button there. I'll add that to the PDF that you can download below just as a reminder. And let's save our style sheet and go back to our site. Let's make it fairly large. And if I do a refresh, by the way, I'm using the Chrome browser just in case anybody doesn't know, and if you're following along, I suggest you download and use it. It's a free download. Now when we start reducing this, once it gets to 380 or just below 380, we should see those CSS changes start to implement themselves. So let's bring it in quite quickly here. 386 to, there we go. See on 380, this becomes smaller, smaller, less padding. The buttons, they're all the right size there. The logo's changed. For some reason that was white up there. Let's correct that. Let's do a quick refresh. There we go. Let's have a look. That background's not changed the right colour there, so let's add a bit of we'll just add this to our CSS. I'll put it in the notepad so I don't forget it. And just add it to our brackets media queries here. save. Back to our site. Do a quick refresh. That's better. Okay, I've just noticed another little problem. If we look at our menu toggle up here, when we go past 380, it's reverted back to its default state. That's fine, but I'd rather it stayed that nice red color until the breakpoint, and the breakpoint is about 767, I think. Let's just type. Yeah, that's where it breaks, 767. So I'm actually going to do another media query, and all our little CSS for this thing I'm going to put under this here. So I'll just do that in a notepad here. It should be quite easy to do. So if we bring this notepad up, let's make another media query. I'll just copy this one. Just drop this down a little bit. This time we want it to be 767. Fix. Put a closing tag on there, closing curly bracket. Now anything that was the toggle like here, from here, that one, it's just to there. That should do it. And I'll cut that, Control X. I'm going to paste it in there. Let's give it a bit of space there. And now I'll just add this to our CSS, to our media queries. And I want to make sure that I cut out the ones that we've taken out, moved over, so it's those three there. So you need to have more here, so let's copy those and just put them in there. Looks like I missed one out on my notepad there. Okay, now let's get rid of these. And I'll also copy those back over the notepad so it's correct. Here we are. I'll just make sure I've pasted that in there. So we've got the same thing. Okay, that looks good. And we'll save that. And do a refresh. That should now change to the red and white color. Great. Let's just make sure, yeah, our other menu looks fine. Still doing exactly what we wanted it to do. Take that down, that stays red all the way. Let's just move this down a little bit so we can see what's going on. Pull it in, and when we get to 380, boom, there's our media queries right there. Great, so that's worked out just fine. Check it on our devices. iPhone 5 works. 6, it's fine. 6 Plus, yeah, it's all good. So that's where it splits there. So there we have it. There's how to add media queries to correct any viewing problems you may have on smaller devices. Again, this has been quite a long lecture. But thanks for watching. Once again, this has been Jamie from System 22 and GreatWebDesign.com. If you've enjoyed this, please subscribe to our channel. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next video.